the famous song that's been sung at the racecourse as soon as Wrexham go 1-0 up since probably the early 90s, since I can remember, is 1-0 to the Sheepshaggers. Every single time we went 1-0 up, it'd be 1-0 to the Sheepshaggers.
Being a Wrexham fan in world football means, well, many, many things to so many different kinds of people right now. And I don't think that question was asked very much around the world until Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney took over the team in 2021, but they did. And now that question, honestly, is one of the most fascinating in world football because, well, it gets to the core of how this proud team, this historic team, in a small Welsh city, in the bowels of the English league system, has begun to mean so very much to so very many around the world. It gets to the core, really, of fandom. And I frame this question at a remarkable time in the team's history. They are poised to return to the English Football League, League Two, for the first time in 15 years this August. And right now, they've just arrived here on American shores. The journey of fandom, big picture, to be honest, and it is a joy to welcome, live from Denbigh in North Wales, Thomas Wynne Lewis, a local journalist, a lifelong fan, known to his friends as Tomi Caws. That's Welsh for Tommy Cheese. God bless you, Tommy. Welcome.
Rog, thanks so much for that introduction, mate. I mean, I've got a tear in my eye here. Don't know if it's coming across, but yeah, that was fantastic. As you say, just absolutely incredible. Like, I'm still pinching myself now, 2.5 years on, I think it is, since the takeover, and yeah, it's just absolutely amazing. I've been lucky enough to see some great times in this club's history, and I've seen some pretty poor times as well, as we all have. So yeah, we're all just enjoying the ride at the moment.
Some ride it is. But first things first, as I drink I'm now 87% made up of SToK coffee and their incredible doings. But your name, Tommy Cheese. In Welsh, Tomi Caws. Let's get that out of the way. I've got to ask. When we first spoke, I said, "How did that happen?" And you had a pretty simple, rational answer.
I feel bad, given the product placement you've just done. I should have a piece of cheese or something here, Snowdonia cheese ready, but I haven't. As simple as I used to work in a cheese factory. It's as easy as that, Roger. It's as simple as that, and the name just stuck like a particularly frustrating piece of cheddar. I quite like it, to be honest. Everyone likes having a nickname.
I love it. It does make you sound like you've been ripped from some Martin Scorsese movie. We're going to get Tommy Cheese on this hit. But God, thank you to the Welsh creamery business for delivering Tommy Cheese into our loving arms. Let's dive into your connection with Wrexham, because it does run long and deep. Your family, I mean, you came of stock from an Everton supporting family, right?
My dad was born in the 60s. Everton were one of the top teams, but he also used to go and watch Wrexham as well. But yeah, it's my tied as well for grandfather. He was the one who took me to watch Wrexham. I'd been to watch Everton a few times with my father, enjoyed it, but never really felt that connection. And just the first time, I believe it was in the late 90s. I can't pinpoint the exact game, but I remember it was a game against Bournemouth. I remember Rooster, Kevin Russell scoring. And yeah, it was just, I just remember seeing the Welsh Dragons, the Welsh flags all around the ground. I think the crowd was maybe about 4,000, something like that. Nothing spectacular. And I believe, Bournemouth weren't the club they are now. They brought about 45 fans. I think you could probably name them all individually, but yeah, it was different times, but it was great, and I was just hooked from the first moment I walked up the steps. And I think I'd imagine you, Rog, as well. You feel that connection when you walk into that ground. You're like, this is my club, and that's never wavered ever since. Even though it's been some pretty testing times. I mean,
it is amazing. And by the way, congratulations, you dodged a bullet on the Everton thing. I've got to tell you, in the long run, but. Tommy and I grew up in a very similar area, Liverpool, North Wales. It's a really porous border from a footballing perspective, and there is a big pull to Everton fans who are Wrexham sympathetic, Wrexham fans who lean the other way. But paint this picture for us. You're at the racecourse. You're with your grandfather. It's like late 90s. I think Wrexham were in old Division 2 back then, the third tier. And you told me there was just a handful of people at the racecourse that day, but it was such a striking experience. And the first time you go to a football match as a kid is, like, I remember the first time seeing Goodison Park. I'd never seen anything so beautiful and green and just like the most exquisite stage to this day that my eyes had ever seen. But there was something deeply emotionally profound about you with your grandfather as a Welsh speaker, and just seeing the Welsh flags all around the stadium that you found so stirring.
In terms of the big clubs all play across the border in England, so every week is almost like an international fixture for Wrexham, and that was something that straight away, it was that international flavour of, the away end, you had all the England flags and stuff like that, but in the home end at the racecourse, the three home ends were just plastered with Welsh flags. And
you said, supporting Wrexham for my whole life, your words, travelling around behind this team, you said you felt like you were changing the perception in England of Welsh people. And I asked you, what is that perception? And you said, all the English people said, and this is known in England, but this is probably news in America. You said 2 words, you said sheep shaggers.
But yeah, no, sheep shaggers. I mean, that's a badge that we sort of wear with pride, though. It's become something, much like a lot of fans of clubs do. They sort of wear it as a badge of pride, and the famous song that's been sung at the racecourse, as soon as Wrexham go 1-0 up, since probably the early 90s, since I can remember, is 1-0 to the sheep shaggers. Every single time we went 1-0 up, it'd be 1-0 to the sheep shaggers. So it was one of them to the English every time. It was it was great though, and it's banter as well, but there's certainly there's an underlying feeling as well, and hatred is probably going too far, but there's certainly that those negative feelings that can sort of boil over sometimes at a football match, but yeah, definitely that is the term.
And Tommy,
definitely.
Tommy Cheese, you have seen it all. You are a hardy man. I want to salute you. You have lived through some times of challenge, financial problems for the club, rival Chester's former owners taking over the club, an owner trying to sell the vaunted SToK Caerhas, the legendary racecourse ground, so that they could develop it into housing. Tommy, I'm an Everton fan. I feel like I've known suffering, Tommy Cheese, but I take my Everton hat off and I doff it in your direction, because you, Tommy, you've got a PhD in suffering.
Yeah, I tell you what, that's going straight on my Twitter bio after Roger. I like that one. Yeah, it's. I wouldn't change it for the world. I genuinely wouldn't change it for the world. And it's because when you get that success, that moment when we win the league, for example, it all comes flooding back. Just remember just all the horrible times we've had, but out of those horrible times comes pure elation. I sort of see sometimes with clubs who are accustomed to success, the celebrations aren't as intense, if that makes sense. I don't like to pick on Man City. Enough people do that anyway. But sometimes I see their fans maybe celebrating what should be, just a joyous occasion, and I see them just going yeah, and you see us. We've only won the 5th tier of English football, and we're going absolutely ballistic. And went out that night and had 55 pints, and then I've got to work in the morning. You don't think about work in the morning, you get straight on the celebrations. But yeah, that's what it's all about for me. And I think 95% of football fans, whatever club you support, have had that suffering. You spoke about it there, Rog. Evertonian, you've suffered plenty over the years, but do you know what? One of these decades or centuries, you will win a competition, yeah. I'm sure.
Well, maybe in about 30 years, Rob and Ryan's grandchildren will take over Everton and take us from non-league to wonder. But I've got to live through that darkness. You have lived through that darkness. You said about the resilience of the fans, Tommy. At a certain point, there's almost the resilience. Does that become the point? Like, despite it all, we are still here, and that becomes the point in the dark times.
Just give you an example, when the club needed to raise £100,000 in 24 hours to keep their place in the league. This was about 12 years ago, I think 2011. There was kids literally coming with their piggy bank and giving them like 35p. There was some people handing over the deeds to their house as a bond. It was incredible. There was just the whole fan base came together and gave what they can. And I've alluded to it before, Rog. Wrexham isn't a rich area at all. It's it's a very, very working class town. People do struggle, people were more than happy. That's the love that people have for this football club and the strength of feeling towards the football club as well. Without Wrexham Football Club, I dread to think how Wrexham and North Wales would cope without it. I really would go that far to say that. But this is why it's an underdog story. The club has survived against all odds, and now these are great times. Ryan and Rob have come in. This is absolutely amazing.
I want to take you to a dark date, Tommy. The close of the 2007-2008 season. A sagging 2-0 defeat away at Hereford United. Oh, were you there?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, I mean, the Red Dragons ultimately dropped into non-league football at the final whistle. You were there. Describe that day. And also, what did it mean to you? What did it feel like?
We felt if we go down, we're not coming back. It's going to be really, really tough to come back.
What did it mean to the city to have a club relegated out of the England? I mean, take us to that night, the Hereford night, the journey home. Yeah. What was that like? What was the move? Did it feel? I mean, football we know is the most important, least important thing. But did it feel like a bereavement? Did it feel like a loss? I should say I'm asking for a friend, and that's Friends Everton Football Club. But like, what did it feel? You were there. What did it feel like to you, that long journey home?
Usually after a loss, you'd be absolutely fuming for 10 minutes, and then you'd have a laugh, and you'd have a laugh about all the things that happened that day, blah blah blah. No, this night was different, and it felt like the end, and it was like. It really did. You talk about bereavement there. It felt like a bereavement. It was really, even though you're only getting relegated one league, people say that's a bit melodramatic, but it felt more than that. Leaving the Football League after, I believe it was like 84 years, I think it was at the time, and this feels worse than a relegation. It feels, almost like a bereavement in the family. And like I say, just on the way home, we didn't really speak. I got dropped off. It was like, I think someone said, "Oh, see you in August." And it was like someone else said, "Oh, I don't know if I'll bother." And of course they were all there. Everyone was there in August. And then, Rog, we started the next season, and the worst possible thing happened on the first day of that next season. We won 5-0, and then we thought, "Yeah, here we go. We're going to win every game 5-0. We're coming back." Didn't happen like that. I think we finished 10th, and then it was a long 15 years.
Do you remember when rumours of a celebrity takeover first began circulating, where you were when you first heard them?
I remember hearing the rumours, and it was all over sort of Twitter and things like that, and and people were trying to sort of apply some sort of logic to it, which in hindsight was a complete waste of time because neither of these guys had any link to Wrexham whatsoever. So people were saying, Russell Crowe, his family are from Rhoslanech just down the road from Wrexham. They're like, "Oh, I've heard it's him." And it's like people just guessing; they hadn't heard anything. And then there was rumours about all sorts. I think Hugh Jackman was actually mentioned for some strange reason, not sure why.
Were the pubs just like of North Wales just absolutely crackling with rumour, like maybe it's Cruz, maybe Springsteen is buying into it, or were people like, this is like science fiction, this is crazy, this is not going to happen? It's like Marilyn Monroe deciding to marry Arthur Miller.
Yeah, do you know what? I'd have loved Rhys Ifans to be involved. From I don't know if many of the American viewers might know him from like Notting Hill back in the day, but he's actually a Wrexham fan, but he hasn't got very deep pockets, so I don't think it'd work as well as him. I don't think he even
has a pair of pants. Does he? You'll remember him from that movie, Dave.
Yeah, that's it. The infamous Y-fronts in the Hugh Grant film. Yeah, but no, he's a Wrexham fan, but yeah, his pockets aren't as deep as these two guys. Do you know what? Sticking on the Always Sunny theme, I'd have been over the moon with DeVito. I'd have loved Danny DeVito to be the chairman. That'd have been amazing.
That's amazing. Oh, after fan ownership for that full decade, the Supporters Trust agreed to sell the team to those two gents. After that, as you incredible Zoom call. And I've got to say, from a fan perspective, it's an amazing act to brave at, really. Fans who'd almost had the club ruined and buried by multiple sets of previous owners, trusting again. I mean, what was that like? Because there's a lot of North American owners of teams, and we've seen them just charge on in, destroy the DNA of the club they've acquired. And I don't know if you can rewind your feelings in that moment. But was the part of you, any part of you, that was sceptical?
The thought process from myself, and certainly most of the fan base, I think, was, these guys, they don't need the money. I don't think it's too melodramatic to sort of say the club could have died. To be honest, it really was that serious. The supporters trust, they did a great job, and I've got to thank them for the years of hard work, mostly volunteers, fantastic. But they just didn't have the finance to take the club forward, unfortunately.
Yeah. So 6th tier, you would have welcomed Danny DeVito as the manager, not just the owner, is what you're saying.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely, at that time, yeah. Yeah, I think so. We'd have took Frank Reynolds in character, I think, as well, to be fair.
And Charlie.
Yeah. Frank Reynolds can take the sort of business side, and then Charlie can do the Charlie work in the background.
And what a table act. That's actually a bloody good idea. Frank and Charlie as co-managers might actually be what Everton need to get to mid-table. But from the outside, I've got to say, I did really admire this. It's when I started to become really fascinated by this complex story that's happened since. How Rob and Ryan approached the town, approached the team, approached the task with a joy and passion, a creativity and funding, but also with a sense of humility, and almost as crucially, a real sense of knowing what they don't know, which many of the North American owners haven't, as they've kind of blustered in.
Yeah, I think that's really key, and I think they were, they listened to so much, especially in the early times, but they still listen now. They see a lot of things on social media. I'm pretty sure they're reading most of it. They sort of hear the opinions of the fans, and especially in those early days, though, Rog, they were so receptive to listening to what the fans are saying. And Wrexham's poor owners in the past were from the UK, so we can't just have a go at North American owners, obviously. But yeah, there has been. I know certainly in Swansea, I've got a few fans of Swansea City fans, another Welsh club who have got North American owners, and they're really unhappy with their owners. So we're so lucky. In fact, whilst they sort of said, listen, we're a couple of North Americans, we don't know that much, I think they impressed fans by their knowledge on that first Zoom call especially, and certainly in the early days. I remember speaking to him in the first press conference at the racecourse, and their knowledge was good. It was very good. They'd done their homework, they hadn't just gone into this blind. So that went a long way with fans.
They got DeVito to brief them. But what has happened since has been magical. It's been surreal. It's been unfathomable, really. I don't know whether for you it felt like from the beginning that success was guaranteed, or part of you was still terrified as a fan. But the story we know is at this point is well told. But what can you give us? One or two of your greatest memories on this journey, which Wrexham went from an acquired taste to global darlings, and you had Will Ferrell nipping into the turf for a pre-pint, and it almost became normal.
Honestly, I'm so used to Wayne from the turf being photographed next to celebrities now. I always joke with him, I call him the A-lister, they've come there to see him. But yeah, and by the way, he said something really funny. He was back chatting to Paul Rudd, and I said, bloody hell, Wayne, you're used to all this now. And he said, well, I'll still be up at 6 a.m. cleaning the toilets. So, it's not all glitz and glamour for Wayne and the turf. But no, it's Wrexham's a town where, you didn't even get many Welsh celebrities. Like someone who used to read the weather. If someone was in town, they would see that as something massive. Like, you know what I mean?
Or someone who resembled someone who used to read the weather. Doesn't that person look like somebody who reads the local weather? Yes.
A doppelganger for the weatherman. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, people like, wow, look at this, front page of the paper. But no, it's just become absolutely amazing. And no matter what happens, if you give everything out on that field for Wrexham Football Club, we'll get behind you. Now, if you lose, that's just what happens. Everyone loses sometimes. If you put everything in there, we'll get behind you. And it's another reason why the club's so special.
But the wins, Tommy, a Wrexham that now wins. What has that done to your mind?
I mean, I'm so used to losing that I'm picking some of my favourite moments are losses. That's weird, isn't it? But yeah, it's just the wins are absolutely unbelievable. And to sort of go, I've never known it with Wrexham to go into every game as we did last year, home and away, big game on that, expecting to win. Like even going to Notts County, okay, we lost that game away at Notts County, but you expected to win. And it was brilliant. It was such a nice feeling going everywhere, just with that expectation rather than hope.
Which brings us to this pre-season. Tommy, your team, who 4 years ago were pre-seasoning with away matches against 6th-tier Curzon Ashton and semi-pro outfit Kevin Druids, are travelling coast to coast across the United States. You've been there from the beginning, Tommy. Does it feel like you were a fan of the Beatles way back when they were the Quarrymen, and now they're in the bigger than Jesus mode?
To be honest, though, mate, I can never see myself saying, "Yeah, Wrexham. I prefer their earlier stuff." I don't think I'll ever be saying that. But yeah, it is like that. It is like, and do you know what? It's like that for so many Wrexham fans, locals here in North Wales, and I've got to say as well, though, the fans here, they're so welcoming of our new American fans, and fans from all over the globe, and it's great. It's absolutely brilliant, and I love it. I've seen pictures of fans over there in America now getting ready for the games, and these massive crowds. Do you know what? Like, usually you'd be like, yeah, they're all there for Chelsea. I'm like, no, I think they're all there for Paul Mullin and Wrexham. I genuinely feel like it's such a massive factor in that 51,000 crowd. And I think our biggest crowd of all time was when we played Liverpool at Anfield, I think in the 60s. And I think it was like 54,000 or something. So it's close to our biggest ever crowd. I've been to Wrexham friendlies before now, in places like Colwyn Bay, and there's been like 600 there, so it's crazy. It really is. It's crazy, but yeah,
I love that.
It's something I'm enjoying.
I love that. I prefer the Beatles when they were just an indie band. But tell us, Rob, how do you understand it? What is it about your team and your town that has made them the football world's darlings?
I'd love to think. Now, obviously, you've got to be honest and say the two guys involved are a huge factor. You have to be honest and say that. But I think as well, and I hear it from the Americans as well. When I hear the American Wrexham fans sort of talking in interviews and stuff, and none of them say, "Oh, I support them because of Ryan and Rob." They say, "Oh, I watched the documentary and I loved the story behind the town and the team and the people." And I genuinely believe that sort of rhetoric as well. I think that's a factor. I think people love that this smallish working class. I still call it a town. I mean, it's recently become a city, but to most people in Wrexham, it's the town. And it's a town which has suffered from lack of investment. The wages are amongst the lowest in the UK, but we've got this amazing football team that has survived and punched above its weight. And now has got investment beyond its wildest dreams. And I just think people love that sort of story, that aspect to the story. And, I think the people make it as much as Ryan and Rob, if not more, actually. And I certainly think that's the sort of rhetoric that Ryan and Rob have tried to push as well.
Your team are about to take the field in the Football League for the first time in 15 years, which is nearly half your life, Tommy. How are confidence levels ahead of this journey as they open the season at home at the SToK Kairas against MK Dons?
It's just going to be amazing. MK Dons, a really tough game to start off with, by the way. It's not going to be easy. And, I just hope, I know what Wrexham fans are like. It's like, there's massive high hopes. I've got high hopes. I fully believe, I think Wrexham can get promoted again, back to back.
When you hear on that first day, the Wrexham song, Uma Ohid, that David Yuan song that translates as, I believe, We're Still Here, a song that was originally written, as I understand it, as a song about Welsh memory, Welsh culture, Welsh perseverance, Welsh survival. It's become synonymous with Wrexham in the pre-Ryan and Rob years. Can you describe emotionally, shut your eyes and tell us, Tommy, what emotions do you do you expect to experience?
Well, first of all, the start of that song, like you hear the chords of like a harp sort of going, and it's just, I think for most Welshmen, like you feel, second to maybe the national anthem, I think is only the hairs on your arms just go up, and you just feel this just emotion wash over you. And it's become like a song synonymous with Wrexham, especially as you said the years. And it literally yma hyd gweitha pawb a phopeth, which basically means despite everyone and everything, we're still here. It's a song of defiance, and it's a song about Welsh culture that survived. Despite those next door who we don't mention trying to kill it off, and all this sort of stuff. And it's synonymous with Wrexham as well. So many people tried to kill Wrexham, failed, and we're still here. It's that defiance, and I think Wrexham fans, Welsh speaking or not, have really grown to, and they play it before every game at the racecourse. And even the non-Welsh speaking Wrexham fans can sing it and really feel in their heart that it belongs to them as much as it does to any Welsh speaker.
I am so grateful to have you in our life, to have you reporting when you can during the season, to you, to your town, your team, and to the memories you're making to football. Courage. Listen to the full version of this podcast and all our podcasts wherever you get your pods. But first, subscribe here for more Men in Blazers videos. And courage.